From carrying The Witcher and the DCEU on his back for years, to being left in the dirt by both, 2022 was a year of disappointment for Henry Cavill, and the fans can't help but wonder, are there good things to come? Or was this the beginning of the end? Now, you've got to keep in mind that the handsome Brit has always had kind of a rough time in Hollywood. Before he landed any big gigs, he was that one actor who'd come extremely close to getting a big role, but would be rejected last minute. It happened with Cedric Diggory in the Harry Potter franchise.
At the Ministry. This strapping young lad must be Cedric, am I right? Sir.
Then James Bond, and also, ironically, Superman. Yep, the first time he auditioned, he didn't get the part, but then he made his way to the Hollywood A-listers. He's now a face and a name known to millions. But here's what's sad. From the looks of it, many of his fans are concerned that his career is coming full circle. He went from being the actor who couldn't land a gig to a megastar with a seemingly stable career. And now finally, once again, to being the actor that's constantly dropped from projects. But before I get into whether or not that assumption is true, I think we should talk about how it all started. You know, so that we're clear about who's behind all of this. And the culprit, folks, is DC. Form ranks, soldiers. We ride at dawn. Because the DC studios must not get away with how they did our boy dirty. See, Henry's relationship with the DC universe was, well, hardly ever a relationship. Situationship, more like, and a toxic one at that. So when last October he announced that he'd be back as Superman, it felt too good to be true. And surprise, surprise, it was. He was first told to announce the big news, and then in December, when James Gunn and Peter Safran took the wheel, they told Cavill it was over, and as cruel as all of that was, the consequences of that mess ran deep. Yep, it did worse things to the actor's career than just costing him the huge franchise. And you've gotta admit, bruising his ego, it set in motion a sort of domino effect that cost him another big gig too, The Witcher, and the real ones know that this one hurt more than the loss of Superman. Because while we were getting used to a DC without Henry, there just isn't a Geralt without him, right? Now, the truth of his resignation from the Netflix show is that, unlike Superman, he wanted to leave this show. Why? Because, well, the creators were deviating offensively much from the source material, and they were also taking Henry and his passion for the show for granted. So, in a way, the Witcher creators betrayed him too by first promising to stick to the books, and then doing anything but. Okay, so remember the dominoes effect thing? Well, see, DC is to blame for this loss too, because even though he wanted to, he wasn't leaving, because let's be honest, it's a bit foolish to throw away the security that comes with a huge show like that. Unless that is, you've got something even bigger to fall back on. The dots connect themselves. He left only when he was sure he'd be safe in DC. Damn, talk about getting stabbed in the back. So yeah, fast forward to now, and people are afraid that his career's done for. And can you blame them? When he keeps losing gigs like it's a sport? Remember Highlander? Well, the remake of the 1986 Highlander? Yep, as it turns out, the Cavill was dropped from that multi-million project earlier this year too. And Chris Hemsworth will most probably be replacing him in the iconic film's remake. The Hemsworths are after him. And while the bad news ball is still rolling, allow me to tell you that our James Bond dream might also never come true. Oh yeah, while Henry was one of the favorites because of course he was, sources are now claiming that the franchise is eyeing Aaron Taylor Johnson instead. Okay then, now that you know why it looks like the clock is ticking for Cavill's career, let me show you the other side of the picture. All is not lost. Okay, there's no denying that Henry has faced some serious L's these past few months, but you have to consider that this man is not a newbie in Hollywood anymore. He has enough resources and skills to carve a path forward after all the disappointments. Sure, losing his ties with multi-million projects is a bummer for how he's perceived by other big studios now, because his record so far ain't it. He's either been dumped by or has dumped massive franchises. Not a good look. But that's a pessimist way of looking at things, and I'm not letting you go down that path, because as it turns out, Cavill now has something to call his next big thing. Say hello to a Warhammer 40,000 adaptation by none other than Amazon Prime. You know that budget will be crazy, but what's better is that he won't only star in the series, but also produce it. And he's probably the biggest gaming nerd in Hollywood, so there's no doubt he'll nail it.
speak these words, our forces engage the remnants of Leviathan.
So yeah, I don't think someone with a deal with Amazon has much to worry about career-wise. And you know what else is a great opportunity for an actor? Getting to work with Guy Ritchie. He really is one of the best, most fun directors out there. And Henry will be on our screens in 2024 in a Guy Ritchie film. It's called The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Already sounds interesting, doesn't it? Well, it's a World War II film about a group of English soldiers who used unconventional ways to fight the on Winston Churchill's orders. Yep, sign me up. What's great is that this film will, without a doubt, be a hit, because not only is the cast star-studded, but it's being produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, the guy that made Top Gun Maverick and the Pirates of the Caribbean. He knows how to make a hit. Oh, but that's not all. The word on the street is that we might also get the long overdue sequel for Man of U.N.C.L.E., another Guy Ritchie film.
Is he looking at us? When you hear something that sounds like a gunshot, drive.
We're getting more of Napoleon Solo? Spy Henry Cavill? Now that's a win! Speaking of spy movies, there's another one. You might remember when Cavill posted a picture of himself and Dua Lipa dressed all fancy dancing. Well, that film, Argyle, revolves around the story of a spy with amnesia who goes out for revenge against people who wronged him the minute his memory returns. As if the plot wasn't interesting enough, the cast is also just unbelievable. We'll see Henry alongside Dua Lipa, Samuel L. Jackson, John Cena, and Bryan Cranston. Now that's an expensive film right there. But you know, as much fun as the badass movies are, you can't deny that something about lighter, softer stories is so much better. Good thing Henry's got a couple of those stacked up too. Yes, we'll see him in the adaptation of the book, The Rosie Project. It's about a grumpy professor who struggles to find love, so he designs an elaborate questionnaire so that he can find the perfect woman. He ends up meeting someone who doesn't check all the boxes of his requirements, but she's interesting. How fun does that sound? Unfortunately, the film is still in the very early stages of production. We don't even know the full cast yet. And then, of course, there'll also most probably be another Enola Holmes film. So yeah.
Enola.
My God.
Look at you. You're in such a mess.
All in all, I'd say his future projects are just as, if not more promising than his recent disappointments. So if you thought his career was over, you might want to change your mind about that. And that's all from me about everything that's going on with Cavill's career.